Erin Hawryluk is a dynamo, seamlessly balancing the high-wire act of marketing brilliance and the whirlwind of motherhood. As the VP of Product Marketing at Cadent, she's turning AdTech into an art form while managing the delightful chaos of raising 2 kids. Welcome to the Adotat Show, where we plunge into the marketing abyss like a caffeinated squirrel on a mission. In today's episode of our Mad Women series, Erin shares her adventures in AdTech, the sorcery of product marketing, and the mentors who have lit her path.
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet the company litigation? No problem. That's why we're here. Troutman Amin, LLP is a true legal powerhouse.
Welcome to the Adotat Show and our second interview of the Mad Women series, where we slice through marketing jargon like a samurai sword through paper. Today we're joined by Erin Hawryluk, the VP of Marketing, Product Marketing at Cadent. Prepare for tales of AdTech heroics, product marketing sorcery, and the wise mentors who guided her path. Strap in, it's going to be an exhilarating journey. So how are you feeling today, Erin? Ready to shake up things a bit? You've been on this wild ride through AdTech and marketing, balancing career and kids like a high-wire act with flaming hoops. What's the mood over there? Ringleader? Or just try not to fall off the top?
You know, it's funny because it can change any day. It could change from one meeting to the next. I'd say this week, feeling good, ringleader. We have a lot of exciting things happening at Cadent. We recently announced our acquisition of AdTheorent. So that, keeps us busy, helps, breathe new life into our product capabilities, our go-to-market, and a lot for product marketing to dig into in the next several months, for sure.
Yeah, last time we chatted, you couldn't talk about AdTheorent, but today you can mention a little bit more, I assume?
I can mention a little bit more. We still have quite a ways to go, but we're really excited. AdTheorent and Cadent, I think the coming together of the two companies really we're going to be able to bring about the best of our technology to the table. So with AdTheorent's AI and predictive audiences, as well as our, patented viewer graph with the household level targeting that we have, we're really going to allow our advertisers and our customers to extend their reach across the omni-channel ecosystem and really drive results, measurable outcomes for their advertising partners.
So you've been through the AdTech Wars from ad sales to product marketing with enough stories to write a best-selling thriller. How has the industry evolved for women? What's been the most jaw-dropping plot twist?
Yeah, I think, the jaw-dropping plot twist is really been what everybody's experienced, right? Like, when I started in ad sales, 2006, I sat through those uncomfortable dinners, uncomfortable conversations. There was an accepted behavior back then, I think, that we as women too, no longer tolerate, right? Like, I think
it's amazing. We're not talking about 1960s. We're talking about 2006.
No. Like, literally,
because I remember
2008.
I used to get invited all the time to strip clubs and to other places where I didn't feel comfortable, first of all, taking my wife at the time and myself personally. And it was constant. And if you went there, it was obviously only men.
Yes.
Which excluded all the women except the ones on stage, obviously.
And then sometimes you had what maybe appeared to be a civilized lunch or dinner that would evolve into inappropriate discussion. And I was a part of that, right? I had such experience. And at the time, great leaders around me, people, but I was young and didn't know how to stand up for myself. And I think now the difference with especially young women in the industry is like, there's a level of intolerance where we will no longer kind of stand for that kind of behavior. And I think overall men and everybody tides have shifted a little. I'm sure it still exists, but it has shifted.
Has the glass ceiling got any higher or just turned to bulletproof glass? Did you bring a sledgehammer?
I have a sledgehammer. I do. I have plans. But, I don't know that it's gotten higher. In a way, I almost feel like it has become more attainable for women. I think I don't want to oversimplify that statement. There are still challenges, but I think there's challenges for anybody in this landscape, gender aside. For women, there have been a few things that have made this more attainable for me. I've had 2 children since 2020. So since the pandemic and work from home and flexible work has come about, I've had a different experience. And what I see in that is how challenging it must have been for all the women before me who did not have that flexibility. I'm truly lucky to be able, yesterday in the city, in the office, there for conversations that are best in person, camaraderie, getting things done, but then the ability today to work from home, have a conversation with you, use the time for more writing and pointed conversations, and then dropped my daughter off at camp this morning. So that balance was not attainable.
Right. I think Kara Fisher described it once as a labyrinth with a really sarcastic.
Yeah. And, and you still find pockets of it, right? But I think that's where, companies like Cadent and others, it becomes really valuable to work for leadership and work for a company that has your values in mind, and it aligns with the company's goals as well.
Any golden nuggets of advice for young women diving headfirst into the ad tech and marketing jungle today? Is it more about leaning in or strapping in a helmet and charging?
Probably a little bit of both, but I think it's a delicate dance, right? My advice and the way I like to lead is bring others along, right? So make your point, kind of sell it through and bring them along for a journey. It might be that you're putting on that helmet and barreling through, but they almost don't know it, right? And it's not until after it's done, or it's like, wait a minute, I didn't want to agree with her, but I did. That's, and for women entering the space, like, it's intimidating, right? It's intimidating whether you're in ad tech or any other industry coming out of college. It's a lot to take on. I'd say lean in, ask questions, be curious, go to lunch with somebody, grab a coffee. If you don't understand some things, seek it out.
Tired of ads that make you want to gouge your eyes out? So are we. At Origin, we've remastered TV advertising to actually capture your attention and deliver real results. Ditch the same old, and elevate your brand with dynamic, captivating ad experiences. Expect better. Expect Origin.
Do you say it is the secret sauce, unicorn tears, or rocket fuel?
Unicorn tears or rocket fuel, probably. Luckily, I didn't have an energy drink before our conversation or go in another direction. But yeah, it's rocket fuel, right? Like, I pride myself, and I think I have a little bit of a reputation of getting stuff done. So there's value in that. People look to me, and they know if they come to me with a request, it's going to happen. Might not happen the way they want it to happen. I might take them on my journey, right? Hence the helmet. But it's going to happen. We're going to get something done. We're going to make that magic happen.
So moving on a little bit, with the new norm of flexible work environments, how has this impacted you personally with your work-life balance, especially that you have two hobbits in the mix?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Listen, I'm also very fortunate. Not only do I have a remote work opportunity, but I also do have the opportunity to leave my home. So I'm not actually working in my home, but in my father-in-law's, which allows me to get out of the space, out of the fray of the busyness. I also have a very strong partner. My husband we've kind of switched roles in that regard, at least for the last year and a half or so, where he's managing a lot of what's going on at home and kind of the day-to-day. That too is a change, not just in this industry, but in life in general for men and women. But I think it's really important to have that strong partner by your side. And yeah, it allows me to, like I said, get stuff done during the day. And maybe I, unplug at 5:00 to go pick up my daughter, stay unplugged for a couple hours, and then I can get back on and maybe wrap up a few things. Maybe I personally have to work on work-life balance, but it does allow me that flexibility to kind of shut down, be a part of my family's evening, and then dive back in and get some things done.
How do you think the leadership styles have influenced your transition back from maternity leave at different companies?
I've had two very different experiences, neither like bad or good. But after my first daughter, I think it's almost a rite of passage. Many women have experienced this where you go back and like your job is completely different. And I think for leaders, it's important, and this was my experience within Cadent when I came back the last time, is that you have to treat like women coming back from maternity leave as an onboarding experience. Whether they were out for 6 months, 6 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is, they've been through a lot, the company's been through a lot, and they have to kind of reacclimate to the environment. So, I had the experience of coming back and having basically half of a day of reacclimation and then jumping right into an acquisition and hit the ground running. Great experience in that too. And then this last time at Cadent, had kind of the opportunity to also dig in and make the role my own. Our team had gone through some changes while I was out. I stepped into a new elevated role, and my leader, Paul Alfieri, our CMO, was extremely helpful and understanding in having me come back into this expanded role, knowing full well that I now had 2 children at home. And what that onboarding looked like for me coming back is why and how my team was able to get as much done as we have in the last 18 months and why we continue to succeed. I truly think it goes back to how I returned from that maternity leave. So it's not to be undervalued for leaders.
Right. Did you know any leaders that thought maternity leave was just a big vacation?
No, I've known coworkers to think that. So I've been fortunate I haven't experienced leaders in that. I've more experienced leaders who just kind of undervalue. Okay, you're back. Here you go. Let's forget that you're reacclimating to a whole new life.
So let's dive into the dazzling world of product marketing where strategy meets creativity like a unicorn crashing a corporate boardroom. What is the one thing that people just don't get about the strategic value of product marketing? Are they missing the forest for the trees or just lost in the weeds?
I think they're missing the forest for the trees. I know my experience with product marketing now at a couple of organizations has been and it's evolved, right? The maturity of the organization, the maturity of the team helps influence this. We've made great strides within Cadent. But product marketing has the ability, almost a unique ability, and I'm sure there's other departments within an organization to do this, but we really sit within this crux of customers, sales, and product, often taking very complex ideas and features and technologies that are built by our amazing product and engineering teams and trying to distill it into something that resonates for our customers and is like easily digestible for our sales organization to go out and have that message in market. So we kind of see a lot, and we see a lot of pieces of the business. We hear a lot of things. And so we have the ability to information. And I think what could get overlooked in that is focusing a little too much on the marketing aspect of that title of product marketing and not on the product part. So we are not just slide builders, content writers, blog writers, social media managers, right? We really wear many hats, and everything that goes into one slide or one presentation is months of research, whether it be competitive intel, customers, writing to understand what the message and the value prop should be. So we really synthesize something very complex, and allowing people to understand that a little bit more and maybe open them up to what we have to say at the table, I think is extremely valuable to an organization.
Do you ever feel like you're herding ducks into a pond, one breadcrumb at a time?
Yes, herding ducks is new. I often say herding cats. So yes,
I use herding cats on caffeine daily.
It's 100%, right? And that's also part of what I love about the job, right? Part of working with, especially a sales organization, it's a little bit of that all the time. I think that's also where influencing and driving somebody and bringing them on your path with you becomes very valuable.
Can you share a time when product marketing turned a skeptical audience into true believers? Was it like a David Blaine or Harry Houdini moment?
I think that probably pretty much summarizes the last 18 months to 2 years at Cadent. Not a dig on Cadent, right? But we're a traditional like media company, and our product marketing team was kind of plugged into and built upon this traditional media services company. So there was a little bit of like kind of getting our feet wet, figuring out where do we sit, and again, influencing and informing our partners along the way. We've made amazing strides with our product team. We have amazing partners in our product team, as well as our sales team. And so I think everything that my team has done in the past couple of years has been a part of influencing those skeptics and helping them see the strategy that we bring to the table and how they can utilize us effectively.
Did you get standing ovations, or was it more like polite golf claps?
I don't know the standing ovations yet, but give us a little time. No, they're definitely appreciative, right? You know, sales, it's a numbers game, right? So if you help them get their message out there and they feel successful and they get the deal, they inform the customer, you have an impact to their sales funnel, you're going to get that standing ovation every time.
So what is currently the most rewarding part of your role, and what keeps you coming back for more? Is it the thrill of the chase or the satisfaction of the catch?
I think one of the most thrilling parts right now is as a department, as it's growing, we have amazing things. I have 3 amazing young women on my team. Some are mothers, and I take a lot of pride in that. It wasn't on purpose. It's just kind of the way the cookie crumbled. But we have a great team, and they come from a variety of backgrounds, which also helps infuse new life into my day-to-day, into my knowledge, as well as the organization. And it is a bit of the thrill of the chase, right? Like we talked about AdTheorent at the top. That makes the second half of this year and into next year pretty exciting for us. It really infuses us with a new shot of excitement and understanding of, okay, how are we going to bring together 2 companies and in doing so, ensure that we are continuing to keep our customers at the forefront, driving outcomes for them, answering the problems that they face in market.
So moving on to the evolution of TV and the great rebundling, as I call it. So TV used to be a box in your living room, and basically it's any screen that won't shatter when you drop it. Although I'm not sure that's true. Not sure I put that in my notes. But all my phones right now have shatters on them. How do you see this evolution playing out? And are we really in the era of the great rebundling?
I do think we're in the great rebundling. Like, I can remember being in college. I graduated in '06 from Manhattan College, so go Jaspers. And I can remember being in college and talking about TV is dying, TV is dead, right? And when I entered into the workforce and ad sales, we were talking about C3 ratings and attributing back 3 days from a DVR playback. So we've come a long way. But in other regards, I think there are reasons why MVPDs were developed 35 plus years ago or so. And that model of bringing content to a consumer in an easy to find fashion, as well as the revenue stream that it provided for the publishers, the networks, there's something to that. And I think we've gotten to a point, and we're going to continue to get to an oversaturation point, where there are so many streamers, there are so many walled gardens and disparate systems that it's becoming overkill for consumers. And we're going to have to find a way to bring it back to make it easy for them to find content, consume content, and make it affordable. There's stats that IAB a few months ago released something, 8 out of 10 people would prefer to pay a little bit more or to receive more ads in order to pay a little bit less for their streaming services. That tells you what the economic climate that we've been in and that we're currently in. That speaks to that as well. So there's going to be a need for somebody or some players to come in and work on bundling this back together to make it easier for the consumer, which as a result makes it easier for the advertiser, because targeting that audience becomes a little simpler along the way. Much easier.
Right. Now the important question, how can advertisers best adapt to the fragmented viewing experience? Is it like precision surgery, or can we call it guerrilla warfare?
Again, I don't know. I'm taking the easy way out. I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like, for an advertiser, it's about marrying the precision, but not forgetting about sometimes the broad reach that you need. You don't want to go overkill down the funnel in any which way. So, we have a great performance TV offering here at Cadent, where we can provide very strategic targeting on top of audiences tied to our household level data. You can activate that or via a direct IO, in a more traditional sense. But some advertisers, some brands are still going to need a level of broad reach. And you can utilize CTV for broad reach as well. It's just a matter of playing with those levers and peeling back on the targeting as needed or adding more.
If you could bet on one major trend that would define the next decade of TV, what is it and what would it be? And is this a safe bet or a wild gamble?
I think the trend will be in the rebundling. I think from a technology perspective, we'll obviously continue to see acquisitions and mergers across the space, and then ultimately what that means for the consumer. So I do think we'll see more, telco and cellular companies starting to bundle content in with their programming, right, to make it easier for consumer. So we'll start to see more of that. I think what will be interesting to see is how data plays a role in that as well. So we have a proliferation of third-party data providers, of measurement. Back in the day, it was Nielsen, be all end all. That's no longer the case. So how all of that comes together in addition to the targeting measurement is what sort of remains to be seen, of course.
So let's get real about leadership here. In the fast-paced, often chaotic world of modern marketing, what does it take to be a truly effective leader? Is it more like Steve Jobs or Oprah Winfrey?
I would say Oprah Winfrey, because I'm going to go with I'll say it, like, I like to lead through bringing people along,
Right. Everyone gets product marketing. You get product marketing. I get product marketing.
Exactly. You get a value prop. No, and that's how I lead my team, right? So we're one team. We run a pretty flat organization within the marketing department. And what that means is everybody's responsible for their corner of the world. So based on the solutions that we offer to our customers, that's how our team is divided. And I look to my team to be experts, subject matter experts within their field. Obviously, I oversee all of it and come in with my perspective, but they have valuable information from, again, their variety of a background that they're bringing to the table. as well as their focus on their corner of the world within Cadent and how they're working with their partners across product and client services and sales, et cetera. And so I really think that Oprah Winfrey approach, everybody gets a seat at the table, everybody's involved, and everybody knows everything. There's no need to hide information from my team. At least that's how I view it. I think, to borrow an NBC phrase, the more you know, the better, right?
Right. Is that still an NBC phrase?
I don't know. Is it? I dated myself with that one. So there's that.
How do you balance the need for creativity and innovation with the demand for results and ROI? Is it like walking a tightrope or more like juggling flaming swords?
The swords. It's swords, and it's understanding. And I struggle with this myself, and I often talk about it with my team. We can't let perfection get in the way of done, right? So there might be an opportunity on the table. Maybe there's a specific meeting that a salesperson is having with a client, and we're going to pull something together for that conversation. It might not be the message that we want to take to market. Maybe we're going too soon. Maybe it's a beta, right? And it might not be the message we want to take to market in 6 months when we roll it out, but it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get market feedback. It's an opportunity to put it in front of a customer, have sales get comfortable with it, and learn from it. And so I think being comfortable with testing and adjusting along the way and not requiring a check the mark, it's done, but knowing we can iterate is important.
Most of your staff is remote?
We are. We're hybrid for the most part. We're in the tri-state area, so we do get into the office. But yes, we do operate a remote team.
So how do you keep them motivated and connected? Is it all about Zoom happy hours or something more substantial?
It's more substantial. We certainly connect as a team very often through, remotely. And then we find opportunities, whether it's in the office or, I have a coworker that's relatively close to my home. So if it means that we go and grab lunch or breakfast and have a meeting that way at a diner and get work done, that's how we do it. But it allows me to have a connection with my team without having to make a 2-hour commute into Manhattan.
Have you ever tried any of these like virtual team building exercises? And honestly, how cringy was it?
Super cringy. Have done it, especially in the height of the pandemic at my last company. It's not great. With large groups, they're just awkward. With my team, I'd probably do it any day because we already know each other, but it's weird when you don't know people.
Right. It's just automatic for you guys.
Yeah.
Any tips for Zoom fatigue?
It's so silly because I feel like we talked about it 4 years ago in the height of the pandemic, but like take a walking meeting.
4 years ago, that's hard to say.
I know.
That's nuts.
No, I know.
Right?
I know. I had to call my boss on Monday, and he said, "Oh, just call my cell phone." And I was like, "Gee, I guess I could." And I could just like walk while I talk to him. I don't have to sit and be on camera. So it's helpful. For me personally, it helps ideas float a little bit better if I'm walking or, kind of.
So we've talked a little bit about retail media before, obviously. It's exploding faster than popcorn in a microwave. How do you see this trend facing the future of advertising consumer engagement? Are we in for a revolution or just a fancy rebranding? Because everything's retail media.
Everything's retail media. Then I saw something from eMarketer this morning about financial media networks. So I think just commerce in general is to continue to explode. I think it'll probably be a little fatigue, right? It's exploding. I think what they're predicting, eMarketer maybe is predicting about $60 billion in growth this year alone for retail media networks. I think we'll reach a point of saturation just like anything else. And I think that's why for retail media networks, it's important not just to rely on their first party data, but to utilize third party data and maybe technology partners like Cadent that can help them expand beyond their footprint to continue to reach that audience in meaningful ways, in meaningful places.
How will data play a role in the evolution of retail media? Are we talking like big brother levels of surveillance or just smarter shopping experiences?
Yeah, no, I think smarter shopping experiences. And I think kind of goes back to what we've talked about a little bit with consumer behavior. Like, I think consumers are becoming more accepting of being served the proper ad at the right time. And as opposed to it being like, oh gosh, this is creepy. I was just searching for that pair of shoes. I know for me, I'm like, well, I looked for that. I couldn't find it. I didn't purchase it. It is still top of mind. So now I'm going to, make the order, right? So the combination of the third party data that retail media networks can use in addition to their first party data will help them, like I said, expand that footprint. So they might know about me as a consumer in their store and what I purchase in their store, but maybe I'm not purchasing an item in their store, I'm purchasing it somewhere else, and they want to influence me to make that purchase at their counter. So utilizing a third-party data set and another partner will kind of help you expand in that footprint.
Have you seen any like data trends that just blew your mind recently?
I think the biggest thing, again, like kind of going back to when I started in 06 and the really lack of measurement and attribution that we had. And I spent some time on the consumer side as well. I was at a couple of TV networks where I was responsible for driving tune-in and putting together media campaigns. You purchase across a variety of networks, you'd put a couple of at-home billboards up and some bus sides, you'd take some pictures and you'd get an estimate of impressions and you'd kind of like, okay, it premiered well, so we think we did a good job. So I think that the evolution of that has been really interesting to me and kind of astounding. And just the attribution that we're able to put back to advertisement and the measurement and the actual results to prove ROI. I think it also could complicate matters, but it's, what you do with that data and the partners you utilize and how you sift through it that's really important.
So you mentioned in your pre-interviews that your Yoda is actually a mix of 3 mentors who shaped your career. How did these wise sages influence your approach to marketing leadership? Was it like Jedi training or a crash course in corporate kung fu?
Different mentors.
And who were they?
Yeah. So, when I was at NCC, I worked for a great gentleman, Andrew Capone, who I'm still in touch with, and he headed up the marketing team there.
What company was that again? I didn't hear.
It was NCC Media, which is now Ampersand. Sorry, I should.
Oh, okay. Ampersand. Yeah, I know them.
Yes. I left shortly before the rebrand, and as did Andrew. And so he was
which has helped the entire world actually know what an ampersand is, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So he was a part of that evolution where at the time we were really shifting straight linear budgets and plans and influence into TV everywhere and video on demand. So I learned quite a bit at that moment in time from him, and certainly about marketing and getting in front of customers. My crash course in product marketing was at iSIMS under the leadership of Jen Ravalli, who again remains a close mentor and someone I'm in touch with today. She's also a mom, and she has great perspective on balance and all things corporate. And she really gave me that crash course in product marketing. I entered that role without an official product marketing title, but with years under my belt of experience. And she saw the value in building a team at that company from a variety of backgrounds, which is something that I've taken with me to this day. Diversity of ideas that brings is really, you can't duplicate that. Hiring a product marketing team from a diverse background set really brings fresh ideas to an organization. And then I'll plug my current boss. He's part of that as well. Paul Alfieri is our CMO at Cadent, and he does an amazing job of leading our entire marketing team. We've made tons of acquisitions.
Have you ever had to hold his hand?
No. Like
he gets it.
He gets it 110%. 110%.
Is that a relief, considering like in the past you've actually had to explain to people what you do?
Yes. Oh, of course. That's how product marketing has succeeded at this company. I think when I was under the leadership of Jen Ravalli, I think she was in a more challenging position because at that company we had leadership that maybe wasn't accepting, right? So that made it a tougher battle for her. With Paul, I have a great, really partner, and he also provides anonymity to myself, to the rest of the team, where he kind of lets us run. And he also helps with that, forget the analogy you use, but like that corporate jungle, right? And sifting through the maze and working through acquisitions and kind of working with the C-suite and kind of all of us in that process.
You mentioned one of the things you learned was never impede the sale. What does that mean?
So I specifically remember when I was at NCC when this note was said to me in a nice way, going back to that perfection, right? There was a slide or a one sheet or something that a salesperson wanted to take out the door, and I felt as though it wasn't ready yet. We don't know the message. We don't know what we're calling it yet. We can't possibly go out the door. And my boss at the time said to me, you have to just let it go. If it's going to turn into a sale, in a way, it doesn't matter what we called it or how we positioned it, we can learn from it. And so that's what I take to this day. Like, we don't want to undermine a value prop. We don't want to rush to judgment on something. We certainly never misrepresent a technology. But if we want to add a little bit more marketing flair to a message and we don't think it's quite there yet, but somebody's ready to go out the door because we have a customer who's fully engaged and ready for the solution, we're not going to hold it up. We're going to get it out the door so they can have the conversation. And like I said, we can learn from it.
Yeah, you mentioned once that overcomplication of the marketing industry is a major pet peeve of yours. How can the marketing industry simplify its process to serve audiences? And are we talking like Marie Kondo levels of simplification, or just getting back to basics?
I think it's totally back to basics. Again, Cadent started as a media business. We've now evolved. We have a programmatic offering, our own DSP, our own SSP. And that's, also been the evolution of my career, where I started in just traditional linear ad sales. At the end of the day, we are trying to help an advertiser get their message in front of a consumer. I think the most complicated, in a good way, tools that we have at our disposal now are the measurement and targeting tools that we did not have in years past. So bringing that together and helping inform the media that way, I think is incredibly impactful. The intricacies of programmatic linear versus direct from publisher, that's where we get a little convoluted. And I think we just have to simplify it for advertisers. It goes back to the walled gardens, right? Trying to make it easier for advertisers and consumers to access the content that their audience is viewing.
Do you think AI or machine learning, whatever you want to call it, do you think it's actually making things more complex in some cases?
No, I think it remains to be seen. I think it's simplifying in some ways. As we look to integrate more with AdTheorent, they have an amazing predictive audience tool that they've been utilizing successfully to drive performance campaigns. So, I think there are pockets where AI is extremely valuable. I do think you still need a human element on the back end somewhere to help manage that process. So I think it remains to be seen. I think in a way we're still, of course, in the early stages of this proliferating in market from a talking perspective. Everybody's talking about AI. I think part of that prediction and what maybe the next 5-10 years looks like in this space is like, what will AI actually do to our industry, and what value will it add?
If you could change one thing with the snap of your fingers about the current state of the market industry, what would it be? And are we talking about a little nip and tuck or a major surgery?
I think there still seems to be a disconnect. Agencies and ad tech providers understanding the need to target audiences wherever they are, and maybe the brand's perspective of wanting to be in front of a specific person or in a specific program. Right. So I think just proliferating that idea of audiences are valuable. If I'm watching content on the big screen in my living room tonight, or I'm scrolling through my phone later this afternoon, if you serve me with an ad and I'm the intended target for that ad, I'm just as valuable on that phone as I am on that big screen. So I think kind of continuing that conversation with brands, and the advertising community to ensure the comfortability of the content that people are in front of. I think that's where in the programmatic space, like for our SSP, take pride in eliminating MFAs. We've been, kind of ranked by Jounce to be successful in that area. And that's very important to us because again, Cadent, we're built on a media company with direct relationships into MVPDs. Having to stand behind what premium means is sort of, a newer concept in a digital programmatic world, but we can do that through our direct relationships with publishers and through ensuring that there's no fraud mitigation and things like that.
Hey, before we go, I know I've asked you about the little door behind you before. Have you watched the movie Coraline yet?
No, I didn't.
You got to.
I'm surprised my daughter hasn't popped out of there.
No, you got to watch Coraline, and then you'll get what I'm talking about. And I know I've also asked you this before, but before we go, if you could send yourself a time-traveling text message for when you started, what is the one piece of advice you give yourself? And would you listen?
I would say buckle up.
Right.
Take the detour, because I detoured into HR tech for a little bit there, and it was extremely valuable. Buckle up, take the detour, and enjoy the ride. Ad tech is fun at the end of the day. It's constantly changing, which makes it ever so interesting.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Adotat Show. Big thanks to Erin Hawryluk for joining us and proving that juggling ad tech and motherhood is no biggie. Just another day at the circus. This is our very last show of the season. We will be back on August 14th with Terence Kawaja, the madman of AdTech venture capitalism. Now, let's give a shout out to our amazing sponsors who keep this show on the road. First, Origin Media, TV, the wizards of connected TV advertising. These guys turn boring ads into mesmerizing spectacles that grab your attention faster than a cat video. If you're not checking them out, you're missing out on the future of TV ads. And then there's Troutman Amin LLP, the legal eagles who make sure your ad tech dreams don't land you in hot water. They navigate the legal labyrinth so you can focus on making those groundbreaking deals. Seriously, they're like the Gandalf of ad tech law. You shall not pass without their blessing. Remember, folks, stay curious, stay bold, and know more than you did yesterday.